Everyone who stands for election should have humility and the courage to ask themselves, why am I doing this? Why am I standing as a candidate? For many, that will be a difficult question to answer. It's one that will cause them some sort of anguish, uncertainty and doubt, because for some candidates it will be about personal ambition and all that goes with that. But it's not a problem for me. I'm the face in the poster and on the leaflets. I'm the party's representative in North Belfast and I'm the name on the ballot paper. But it is the Workers' Party which is taking a stand here. It is the Workers' Party which is setting out its political vision for North Belfast and beyond. And it is the Workers' Party which is presenting an alternative to the type of society we live in, the values that it has, and the importance that it places on ordinary people. I'm quite clear about why the Workers' Party is standing in this election. It's standing for a better society, run for and on behalf of ordinary citizens. A society free of exploitation and greed, and a society in which people can realise their full potential in life and are supported and encouraged to do so. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to address just 4 topics. I want to talk about the importance of this election. I want to talk about the type of society we deserve, the values we should hold, and the type of future we have the right to aspire to. I want to talk about using this election to pass judgment on the parties which ran the last Assembly and Executive. And finally, I want to talk about how we can all go about setting out the alternatives and encouraging others to share our vision. This election is important because we are still in the grip of an enforced austerity programme. There will be further savage cuts to public services, to people's pay and conditions, and to access to education at all levels, from preschool to university. Our industrial base will be eroded even further, and Northern Ireland will continue to be marketed worldwide as a low-wage economy with a workforce grateful for what it can get. It is important too because the political tone which the new Assembly sets will not only set the scene for our jobs and services, it will also create the environment which determines how we relate to each other. North Belfast has suffered the effects of sectarianism, racism and homophobia. This is not an academic argument. People have been killed, individuals attacked and families subjected to vicious and vile intimidation. This election is important because we need an Assembly that takes a lead on these issues, not turns a blind eye. This election is important because it will set the tone for the next 5 years. It is important because in North Belfast, as elsewhere, the number of people who use their vote is dropping all the time. At the time of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, there was a 67% turnout. At the last Westminster election, that had dropped to 59%, a decline of 8%. We need to convince not just the 8%, but all those who feel it's not worth their while voting, that they can make a difference, that they can make a statement, and that they can challenge the status quo. We need to dispel the myth that anything other than a vote for the major parties is a wasted vote. Sometimes part of being a citizen is standing up for what you believe to be right, standing up for a better society, for a better way of life, and saying loudly and proudly, these are the values that I believe in. Standing your ground, stating your case and fighting for a better life for all is never a waste of time. Neither is voting for the Workers' Party. A wasted vote is a vote for the same again. A wasted vote is voting for the major parties in the Assembly and then expecting that something different will happen. That is a wasted vote. This election gives us all an opportunity to re-establish our values. It gives us an opportunity to say what type of society we should be and what sort of future we have the right to aspire to. Let me give you some examples. Our health and social care services are not meeting need. Thousands of people are languishing on waiting lists for operations. Hundreds are lying on trolleys in A&E waiting for a bed. Mental health services are just not able to cope, particularly with the needs of young people. Frontline staff are not to blame. This is a result of political decisions, lack of funding, and a system no longer fit for purpose. Right across Northern Ireland, manufacturing jobs are being lost at an alarming rate. The Assembly job creation strategy is not providing the numbers nor the types of jobs we require. All the major parties here are supporting a reduction in corporation tax, a tax break for big business, while the rest of us carry the burden of Sinn Féin DUP austerity agenda. Instead of borrowing 700 million to fund redundancies, the executive should use its borrowing powers to put builders to work, providing 20,000 new homes instead of 20,000 lost jobs. A socialist programme of publicly funded investment, development and growth is the alternative to austerity and to the cuts imposed by the Stormont Coalition. This is the type of society we need, one where everyone pays their taxes and one where secure, well-paid employment is available to school leavers and graduates alike. We also need a society which values people, protects their rights and fosters diversity. We want to live in a society which is anti-sectarian. We want an education system that is secular and publicly funded. I want women to be trusted to make their own decisions, and I want racism and homophobia to be challenged and confronted at every turn. I want a society which values people above profit, a society which uses all its resources to protect, encourage, develop and enhance its citizens and their environment. I want a socialist society. The Workers' Party wants a socialist society, and I'm proud to take that stand in this election in North Belfast. Some parties couldn't be bothered to stand in North Belfast in last May's Westminster elections, yet they expect people to vote for them this May. There are parties sitting in the Assembly and there are candidates standing in this constituency who claim to be progressive. They talk the talk, but that's as far as they go. They don't and they won't abolish 0 hours contracts. They don't and they won't do away with university tuition fees. They don't and they won't trust women to make choices about their bodies and their own fertility. They don't and they won't oppose fracking, even when it threatens to pollute the water of a large part of this constituency. Yet ironically, these same people and these same parties will introduce water charges in the next Assembly and expect us to pay for the privilege of drinking their contaminated water. They don't and they won't work to end sectarian division because their political existence and their power bases depend on it. They don't and they won't prioritise working people and their families because they already have sided with big businesses and multinational corporations. Instead, they want to hand out tax breaks and open call centres. The message that we need to deliver in this election campaign affects every single citizen in North Belfast, whether they are old enough to vote or not. That message is about how we organise our society to deliver the quality of life that we all deserve. Almost half the population here lives in fuel poverty. More people die from the cold each winter in Northern Ireland than in some countries in the Arctic Circle. That need not happen. Nearly 20% of children here have extreme difficulties with reading and numeracy at 11 years of age. That need not be the case. Our society is more deeply divided along sectarian lines now than it ever has been. That is no accident. The commitments in the Good Friday Agreement to promote and develop integrated education are being replaced by the bogus concept of shared education. That is deliberate. More than 2,000 people in North Belfast have had to use food banks in recent times to feed themselves and their families. That's an outrage and a scandal. And all these issues are the direct result of the parties which are running the Assembly executive. That's why this election is important. It's important because we have an opportunity to challenge and to punish those who continue to mismanage our economy, our schools, our hospitals and our futures. The fight back starts here. It starts with me, it starts with you, and it starts with the Workers' Party.
Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba.